In 2019, Peloton was sued for $300 million, just months before a pandemic made them worth $50 billion. They settled for pennies on the dollar. That decision saved them a fortune, and it cost them everything. Everyone thinks the fall of Peloton was caused by a pandemic hangover, a deadly treadmill, or a fictional character dying on their bike. But the company's catastrophic collapse can be traced back to one legal battle they should have settled sooner. This is the story of a perfect storm and the tiny crack that let the wind in. The story begins in 2012. John Foley, a Barnes & Noble executive, had a simple idea: bring the high-end cycling studio experience into people's living rooms. He co-founded Peloton, named after the tight group of riders in a race. The first bike, sold on Kickstarter in 2013, cost $1,500. It was a hit. By 2014, the internet-connected bike with its integrated tablet was a reality. Peloton opened showrooms in shopping malls, and its online community of riders exploded. This wasn't just a bike. It was a subscription service wrapped in hardware, with a $49.99 monthly membership fee, locking in recurring revenue. Then, in March 2019, the bomb dropped. The National Music Publishers Association sued Peloton for using copyrighted music in its classes without proper synchronization licenses. They weren't just playing songs. They were syncing them with moving pictures, a distinct legal category requiring separate clearance from both publishers and record labels. The initial claim was for $150 million. By September, it had been amended to $300 million. The NMPA was arguing that the infringement was widespread across Peloton's entire class library. This wasn't a minor licensing fee. It was a fundamental challenge to their content library. Here's the part nobody talks about. Peloton went public in September 2019, raising $1.16 billion at an $8.1 billion valuation, while this massive, unresolved lawsuit was hanging over its head. They priced their IPO with a ticking time bomb in the prospectus. Investors were betting the bomb wouldn't go off, and then they made the crucial mistake. Instead of settling quickly to clear the cloud before the IPO or right after, they fought. The lawsuit dragged on, forcing Peloton to change the music in its classes and remove popular programs midstream. It was a direct hit to the user experience during their most critical growth phase. In February 2020, they finally settled for undisclosed terms. Weeks later, the world locked down. The pandemic turned Peloton into a phenomenon. Their valuation, just $8.1 billion at IPO, would soar to $50 billion by January 2021. The settlement, whatever it cost, looked like a masterstroke in hindsight. That same month, a rival, Flywheel Sports, shut down its at-home bike service after losing a patent lawsuit to Peloton. Court documents revealed Flywheel had engaged in corporate espionage, trying to steal Peloton's trade secrets. Peloton then offered Flywheel's customers free refurbished bikes. It was a ruthless, brilliant power move. Demand was so overwhelming that Peloton couldn't ship bikes fast enough. Customers waited months, and some canceled. In December 2020, they poured $100 million into shipping solutions to accelerate manufacturing. It was a bet that the pandemic boom would last forever. That bet would bankrupt them. The decision that killed them was still 2 years away. The music lawsuit was settled. The pandemic was a gold rush, and Peloton's stock price quadrupled in 2020, hitting $116 a share. But the foundation was cracked. That $100 million inventory bet was loading a spring, and the first sign of trouble wouldn't come from a competitor. It came from a tragedy. In May 2021, the Consumer Product Safety Commission warned parents to stop using the Peloton Tread Plus after a child died after being pulled under the treadmill. Almost 40 other people had been injured. Peloton's initial reaction wasn't to recall, it was defiance. They rejected the CPSC's request and told parents to keep children away. The backlash was immediate. Peloton was forced into a voluntary recall in May 2021. The reputational damage was done. The company that sold a vision of health and family fitness was now associated with a child's death. The brand trust, so carefully cultivated, began to evaporate. If the treadmill recall was a body blow, what came next was a knockout punch from pop culture. In December 2021, the reboot of Sex and the City killed off the character Mr. Big right after he finished a ride on his Peloton bike. Peloton's stock plummeted 11.3% in a single day. Peloton scrambled. They released a damage control ad narrated by Ryan Reynolds revealing, "He's alive!" But then, 2 women accused the actor Chris Noth of sexual assault. Peloton pulled the ad immediately. Their rescue mission became a second PR catastrophe in the same news cycle. And then, as if scripted by a cruel Hollywood writer, the show Billions aired an episode featuring a character having a heart attack after using a Peloton. 2 major shows, 2 heart attacks, 2 devastating blows. The association between Peloton and cardiac death was cemented in the public imagination. By early 2022, the music lawsuit's true cost became clear. It wasn't about the settlement dollars. It was about the precedent of conflict it set. The treadmill recall, the pop culture disasters, the $100 million inventory glut, all were symptoms. The disease was a leadership culture that preferred to fight than adapt. The stock price told the full story. From its peak of $116, it crashed to $23 by 2021, and then to $20 after the Sex and the City episode. In January 2022, reports surfaced that Peloton had paused production. The company denied it, but the inventory problem was undeniable. In February 2022, the purge began. 2,800 employees were laid off to save $800 million a year. CEO John Foley was replaced by Barry McCarthy, the former CFO of Spotify and Netflix. But Foley, who had clung to control through the music lawsuit and the recall, still held 35% of the voting power. The company that once made luxury bikes was now testing a rental model, One Peloton Club, trying to clear its warehouse of unsold inventory. They raised subscription prices for the first time, squeezing the loyal users they had left. The high-end studio dream had become a desperate liquidation sale. So, what is the real lesson? The music lawsuit wasn't the killer. The pandemic hangover wasn't the killer. The treadmill and the TV show weren't the killers. They were all just stressors that exposed a fatal flaw. Peloton's entire identity was built on a fragile, high-premium hardware sale, not the resilient subscription business they claimed to be. The lawsuit in 2019 should have been the alarm bell. Fighting it showed a company more focused on protecting its cash than securing its foundation. When the real crises hit, a product flaw, a PR nightmare, a demand crash, that unsecured foundation crumbled. The subscription model couldn't survive the collapse of the hardware brand that fed it. By March 2025, Peloton's valuation had fallen to $2.5 billion, down 95% from its peak. The $50 billion company was a ghost, haunted by the ghosts of a music rights dispute and a culture of confrontation. They won the battle against Flywheel. They won the battle against the NMPA eventually, but they lost the war. In business, the battles you choose define you more than the battles you win. Peloton's refusal to settle early wasn't a sign of strength. It was the first quiet tremor before the landslide. A $300 million lawsuit felt existential, but it was just the price of admission to a market they never properly secured. And that is the real transferable principle. A company's crisis response reveals its true priorities. Fighting a costly, distracting legal war while your core product foundation has cracks isn't courage. It's catastrophic misallocation of focus. The lawsuit didn't destroy Peloton. How they chose to fight it did.